Today's story is about a case in Japan where an 18-year-old perpetrator was sentenced to life imprisonment for the first time. On April 21st, 2015, an anonymous tip was received at a police station in Chiba Prefecture, Japan. The caller reported that they were worried about an acquaintance who had not been in contact for several days, and mentioned hearing a rumor about a live burial. The subject of the horrifying rumor was 18-year-old Manae Noguchi. Police investigations revealed that Noguchi had gone missing since the night of April 19th, when she was last seen getting into someone's car. Alarmed by the live burial rumor, the police immediately launched an investigation. However, they could not trace Noguchi's whereabouts after she entered the car. 5 days after her disappearance, her body was discovered in a pit near Chiba Prefecture Airport. The state of the body was gruesome. Noguchi was found kneeling in a 3-foot deep pit, with her hands bound and a gag in her mouth. A burlap sack was also placed over her head, giving the appearance of an execution. The police conducted an autopsy, which revealed external injuries but nothing fatal. The cause of death was determined to be asphyxiation, leading the police to suspect she had been buried alive. During their investigation, the police uncovered details about Noguchi's financial dealings and interviewed people close to her. They discovered that she had borrowed money from various friends but failed to repay it, which tarnished her reputation among her peers. It was puzzling to the police why an 18-year-old would need so much money. The reason was shocking. Noguchi had been frequenting host clubs, a habit she started in middle school. She became infatuated with an older man working at a host club and began visiting the club regularly to see him. Noguchi eventually dropped out of high school in her first year, undergoing a drastic change in her behavior and appearance. Her clothing became increasingly bold and revealing, making her well known in her neighborhood. After quitting school, Noguchi continued her visits to the host club, even ordering a 10 million yen champagne bottle for her favorite host. The police were perplexed about how a teenager managed to acquire such large sums of money. Initially, she borrowed money from friends. Because borrowing money from friends had its limits, Noguchi eventually started working in the nightlife industry. When the club asked her for an ID or a student ID, she had none because she was a minor and had dropped out of school. She had no choice but to provide her middle school ID, which the club owner rejected. Desperate, she borrowed graduation photos from friends to submit to the club owner. Noguchi didn't work at just one nightlife establishment. She worked at others and borrowed graduation photos from different friends. She contacted her middle school friends to borrow their graduation photos, one of whom was her former classmate, Narumi Yuasa. Initially, Noguchi only asked to use Yuasa's graduation album photo, but gradually began borrowing money from her as well. In the end, she borrowed around 145,000 yen, and even borrowed clothes from Yuasa. After borrowing money, Noguchi cut off contact with Yuasa. Yuasa, infuriated, began bad-mouthing Noguchi to their mutual friends. She discovered that Noguchi had borrowed photos and money from others and had never repaid them. Initially just angry, Yuasa became enraged upon learning that Noguchi was a habitual borrower. Yuasa told her friends that she knew a gangster. Yuasa then contacted a 20-year-old gangster named Ida Hiroki. She asked him to help get back her money and possibly bury Noguchi. Hiroki agreed and brought along his friend Nakano Shota. They bought ropes and duct tape from a nearby store and brought a shovel from home. They began digging a 3-foot deep pit in a secluded field. On April 19th, Yuasa, her 17-year-old boyfriend Hiroki, and Shota followed Noguchi in their car. Noguchi, as usual, was having fun at a host club and later went to a hotel in the city with friends. When she left the hotel, they stopped their car in front of her. Yuasa got out of the car and shouted at Noguchi, asking why she hadn't repaid the money and why she hadn't answered her calls. According to Noguchi's friend, Noguchi was visibly flustered and tried to get away, but Yuasa forcibly put her in the car. This was the last time Noguchi was seen alive. In the car, they took Noguchi's phone and wallet, stealing the 40,000 yen in cash. Hiroki and Shota tied her hands and feet, gagged her with a sock, and taped over it. They even put a burlap sack over her head. Noguchi trembled with fear, asking why they were doing this, to which Yuasa whispered in her ear, "You're going to die now." As they drove to the crime scene, they mercilessly beat Noguchi. Upon arrival, they pushed her into the pit without hesitation and began shoveling dirt over her. Yuasa, without a hint of guilt, messaged a friend about what was happening, as if she were enjoying it. The friend testified to the police that Yuasa's tone, relaying the event, was chilling despite having killed someone. Ultimately, Yuasa couldn't keep quiet about what she'd done and bragged to her friends, making it easy for the police to catch the perpetrators. The police arrested all 4 individuals, who readily confessed to the crime. When asked about their motive, they provided a shockingly senseless reason. They killed Noguchi because they feared she would report them to the police if left alive. On November 11, 2016, Yuasa, Hiroki, and Shota were sentenced to life imprisonment, while Yuasa's boyfriend was sent to a juvenile detention center as he was not directly involved in the murder. Yuasa appealed the sentence, claiming she did not directly commit the murder. A reporter later asked Yuasa if she intended to apologize to the victim's family, to which she brazenly replied that she had no such intention. This response infuriated the victim's family, and Noguchi's father strongly demanded the death penalty for Yuasa. The appeal was ultimately dismissed, and the life sentence was upheld in the final trial. This case garnered significant attention in Japan, with many people unable to comprehend the actions of Yuasa and the other 3 perpetrators. A psychologist suggested that group psychology might have played a role, and that Yuasa might have viewed burying her friend alive as merely a prank or act of rebellion among teenagers. This incident became the first case in Japan where an 18-year-old minor was sentenced to life imprisonment. As of April 2022, Japan adjusted the legal age of adulthood from 20 to 18.